Hey everybody, Josh Hannaberry here, Truck Focused Podcast. Just doing a quick video on something called industry specifics. So for a little bit now, we've been creating different segments in our industry, kind of just highlighting different conversations that possibly you didn't know you needed to have, or you weren't sure were taking place in the first place. And on tonight's episode, I just wanted to highlight a few points on the value of hiring a consultant. So first off, what is a consultant? A rough definition would definitely be someone that can take you from point A to point B and ensure that you're doing things properly. And a consultant could be someone that's helping you with a specific problem or problems. So maybe it's driver related, maybe it's profit related, maybe it's just not sure how to obtain new clientele. So my first piece of advice is when you're looking to work with a consultant, really make sure that you're focused on making sure that person or that organization has been or knows how to get you to where you need to be. So in order for you to successfully accomplish that goal, you need to understand yourself. Where is it that you want to go? So if you're like myself, as what's behind me and to my right, I have goal boards, and I'm a big believer in just writing things down so that way you know what you're pursuing. So think about it. In your organization, in your business, regardless of size, where do you want to go? And then ask yourself once you identify where you want to go, you have to ask yourself then, do I know how to get there? So where do I want to go? And do I know how to get there? And once you identify where you want to go, if there's any uncertainty on how you're going to get there, that's something to pay attention to. But the other really important question is, do I know how to legally, within the boundaries of compliance, understand my responsibilities along the way? And if there's any doubt in that conversation, if it's with yourself, with your senior leadership, I highly, highly recommend that you start looking for a consultant or a consultant organization that can help you accomplish those goals. So obviously transportation is so diverse. So there's so many different scenarios that we can talk about. So I'm going to keep this part pretty broad on purpose, just to kind of paint a picture of different things to look out for, as well as different things a consultant can do that like to help your organization. So once you know, this is where I want to go. I want to make more money. I want to have a higher driver retention. I want to be more of an attractive carrier for hiring maybe new drivers, owner operators. Maybe I'm looking to grow my business. There's a lot of those things. So once you identify that, then you start identifying, okay, from a consultant standpoint, what skill sets do I need them to have? So my opinion, again, first off, it's experience. So some consultants, you'll see them, and no disrespect, no shade to nobody, you'll just see them advertising the world when chances are it's hard to say if you actually know everything or if it's just template work. And what I mean by template work is they just take little bits from other places and kind of piece something together. My recommendation is you don't want that. You want to work with a consultant or a consulting organization that has the experience for what you need. So if it's creating just better policies and procedures, working with a consultant that can do that. If it's to pass an NSC audit, if it's to obtain just maybe more clientele, whatever it is, make sure that they have the experience. Read their the about us page on their website. If they have customer reviews, that's super helpful, but also kind of analyze the terminologies, or I guess, the terms, the words that they use in their website when you're checking out services. So if it's a really short description, so say it's driver files and it's a short description, I would start asking the question, okay, how much effort is into what they're trying to sell? So is it thorough enough? Is it detailed enough that you feel confident in that purchase? If not, again, ask yourself, I don't know, maybe I need to keep searching. So that's super important. Other things to really consider is cost. So some consultants will just charge you a number a month, and they don't justify the number. They just say, my cost is this. Okay, that's one way to do it. Another could be in piecework sections. So once you know and they know, okay, collectively we need to build these 16 things and I'm going to charge you per item. We've seen that. Another common way is making sure that you're billing, or that the consultant is billing if it's per person and truck, person, truck, trailer. That's another opportunity. But yeah, making sure that the pricing is fair, because you know your business. And not every consultant is going to play lowball, which is good. I believe that you have to charge for what you offer, but just keep that in mind. What is your budget? What are you comfortable spending? And let them justify the cost. So if you're like, hey, why does this cost this? Listen to the justification. Because again, an experienced consultant or an organization that offers consulting services, they're going to be able to justify the cost based off of the results they know that they're going to provide, but also the amount of work that's going to go into it. So if they give you a pretty like type answer, keep that in mind. But if they give you a really in-depth answer, because this process is going to take us this much time, or because I know when we start here, we're going to make it to here, those kind of things, just monitor that. So what happens if you decide, you know what, I'm just going to grow my business and I'm not going to have a consultant working, or I'm not going to hire a consultant. I don't care. Maybe that's the answer. I can't afford it. Maybe that's an answer. Again, it just depends on you and your business. But you're like, you know what, I'm going to do this. So here is a prime example that I've seen lately over the last probably 18 months in Alberta, and I'm in Calgary, Alberta, and I know it happens in other places, is someone will operate. So in Alberta, there's tons of different sectors in transportation. So a common one is car haulers. So you could be a car hauler and you basically go anywhere in the province. You have, depending on your equipment, it could be an F550 up to a tractor, and you can be hauling a car hauler. So it can handle 3 cars up to 8. Well, I don't know if it's 18, maybe 12. And yeah, that's pretty common. They're hauling just in Alberta. So they're a provincial-based carrier. They have different requirements. And if they're already an existing carrier, then chances are they didn't have to go through a new carrier compliance review, which happened like to March 2018. But they're also, unless there's a need, chances are they're not getting looked at by Transportation Alberta. And as long as they do good at scales, law enforcement, it's all good. So they'll fly under the radar in that regard. And they do everything that they can. They're making a good living and life's good. All of a sudden, there's an opportunity to grow. And they think, you know what? I'm going to grow. I'm going to go from Alberta. So instead of just going north to Grand Prairie, Edmonton, Fort McMurray, or down south to Medicine Hat and Lethbridge, I'm going to go to Texas. And when I go to Texas, instead of hauling a car hauler, what I'm used to, I'm going to haul Super Bs, what I'm not used to. So again, 2 extremes, but it happens all the time. And maybe it's a good business decision. Maybe the pay is really high. Maybe it's a per mile rate plus. And it's like, you know what? That's a really good deal. Okay, that's fair. But what do you need to have in place before you go down? Honestly, it is astronomical the amount of detail you need to pay attention to when you go from being a provincial carrier to a federal. So you need to reapply and adjust your national safety code, your fitness certificate. Once you're a federal carrier, totally different ball game on legislative requirements. Once you cross provincial borders or stateside borders, so depending on how you're getting to Texas, is going to determine how are you permitting. So you have to get a permit. There's overdimensionals, there's overweights, there's different areas that you need permits. There's fuel, one-trip fuel permits. All of those things. Are you going to do that yourself? Are you going to know which permits to pull? What permits do you need to pull from Calgary, Alberta, say to Manitoba? What happens if there's spring thaws in place? What happens if there's road bans and you have to have permits in place? Who are you going to call? Okay, so you're still in Canada. You're now a federal carrier. So hours of service, different requirement. So who's monitoring your daily logs? Who's ensuring your trip inspections are up to par, so your fleet's completing them or they're performing your obviously pre-trip completely, but the documentation is filled out completely, and it's accurate, and it's getting handed in on time, and you're not rolling down the road with any major defects, and you're definitely mindful of the little minor defects that need to get fixed. Who's monitoring that? Who's coaching the fleet? Because you're busy making sure that the business in Texas stays good. So who's monitoring that? What happens now when you cross border? There's a bunch of things, but a really common thing now that I hear lots of struggles with is the FMCSA clearinghouse program. So it's the driver pre-employment and then random testing program. Who's managing that program for you? What happens if you had an employee and they were working and they went for a random test and they did something over the weekend, and they came to work Monday morning and it was still on their system and they failed? What do you do? Because that impacts you as a carrier just as much as it impacts them as a driver. So are people registering for the clearinghouse properly? Are you filing paperwork properly? So again, just one more question to ask. So say hypothetically, you feel confident everything is good. You're hauling Super Bs down to Texas. You arrive in Texas, and if it's a driver, owner, operator, wherever it is, they accidentally get into a collision. That's not good. So stateside in Canada, we have similar regulations, but also very different. It's a different mindset. So my question is, not a fear tactic whatsoever, just straight up question, because again, I see this all the time. What do you do? So who do you call when you're down in the States? And unfortunately, your new tractor that you just bought for this work, it needs say it's minor, but it's big enough that the truck's going to be in the shop for 3 or 4 days. Where is your driver staying? Who's doing the repairs? Was anybody injured? Was there an environmental spill? What paperwork do you need to fill out? Who do you call for insurance? Do I have to get law enforcement involved? All of these types of questions. And then say the individual, they challenge your organization with legal to ask the question, is this the safest carrier? Again, questions that happen all the time. There's no fear in this. It's just straight up. We're in a good industry, but there's lots to consider. So all of a sudden now you have a lawyer possibly giving you a call asking for a specific documentation. That's not fun. Again, I hear it all the time. It's unfortunate. Accidents I believe that most accidents are something that you can avoid, but when they aren't avoidable and you get asked hard questions, you want to make sure that you have everything in place. So those are some high level, very common reasons why I strongly believe working with some form of transportation consultant is required. It's not a that would be nice. It is required. You want to make sure that you have everything in place, because in the event something happened, in the event an unfortunate collision happened, minor damage, but you're being asked, you want to confidently say, yeah, I do. Here, absolutely. How can I help? I'm going to email it to you. I'll fax you what you need. Let's get this settled. That's why we have insurance. That's really important. Same mindset. New carrier compliance review. Maybe you have to go through a full facility audit. Same concept. You want to know if you're asked for something that you can provide it. Working with a consultant really helps with that, because they can ensure, as long as you have the right one, you have your safety maintenance program in place. You have the right policies in place. They're helping ensuring that your entire fleet, dispatch and ownership, anyone in charge of anything to do with the operation of a motor vehicle, and that driver is trained adequately. You have the right records on file. You're pulling your abstracts, your driver qualification file, your vehicle files are in place. They're helping you set up preventative maintenance programs just to ensure that your vehicles are safe, and that is a legal requirement. Those are really big wins. But how about an operational side? How about driver education and retention side? Driver appreciation is huge. Training dispatch how to speak with drivers and training drivers how to speak with dispatch, that's something that people can learn, but that's not a natural thing. So I'm speaking from experience on both sides. So when you're operating behind the wheel as a professional driver, you're very focused on a lot of things, but most of it is where you're going. Well, dispatch, they're focused on so many things. They're focusing on sales, because salespeople can be standing right beside them, asking them specific questions. They have to keep the trucks rolling. They have to be really intelligent and strategic on where trucks go. They're also dealing with customers. They're also dealing with ownership. Professional drivers, they're dealing with what is in front of them. They are geniuses in their element. I have so much respect for professional drivers, and it's super neat when you hear great feedback from customers, from law enforcement, from general public professional drivers navigating safely, helping roadside something happen and they're there, going above and beyond to service your customers. All of those things we need to keep a focus on, and a strong consultant that understands those sides of the business can really help you do that. So in my experience, one of the best ways to driver retention in that respectful conversation is appreciation. It's things like empathy. It's understanding that we're all humans, and understanding that as humans, sometimes we have a bad day, sometimes things happen, sometimes we have a great day, but showing empathy in all of those. That's super important. From the dispatch side, it's super important to monitor how are we speaking even if we're stressed. So again, in experience, I wasn't the best at all times keeping my cool, but at the end of the day, it wasn't my professional driver's fault. It was just everything going on around me, and I couldn't channel that energy the right way. Shame on me. So from a fleet manager side, when you're working with different people, understanding the big picture, be a fan of automation and working with the right consultants that can educate you on how to automate processes, how to stop doing unnecessary processes, because they have a really good lens and expertise on different things that are archaic, that don't need to be done anymore. So that's the neat part about legislation, is it does change over time. And in Alberta, our transportation minister did a wonderful job with government and industry, clearing up a lot of things permit related, where before it was just unnecessary administrative work. Well, administrative work costs carriers so much money, it's just astronomical. The process to obtain this, to hand this in, to submit this, it's nuts. So well done to the province, really appreciate that. So again, from a consulting standpoint, when you're asking these questions, ask which ways can you help me improve my business flow? Fluidity is key. Automation is key. Making sure that they understand the process from truck to shop or truck to customer, getting the bill of lading signed, verifying weight, proper cargo securement tools, all that type of stuff. That all creates fluidity in your organization. So friction, I always talk about friction as in basically roadblocks along the way. Fluidity is things just kind of go nice and smooth. So fluidity keeps a happy and healthy work culture, but it also creates profit, because the more friction there is day to day, people operate slower. They operate probably in the worst mood, which could potentially lose customers. But at the same time, when you have lots of friction, you end up scratching your head because you can't get into that jive that you want to be into, when your zone of excellence is growing the business. And when you have a consultant or a consultant organization helping you with all of these processes to create fluidity, it's a big, big stress reliever. I promise you that. So that's super cool. You can think about things like fuel conservation, fuel coaching, safety in field and in office coaching and training. People are doing safety meetings for you. You're meeting all of these legislative requirements, and it's all being passed off to the consultant. So again, you can focus on what you need to focus on. So there's a lot of positive reasons. There's a lot of affordable reasons to work with a consultant. So again, as you're navigating your business, always ask the question, am I operating within the boundaries of compliance? And if you ever have a question, if you ever have that feeling where, ooh, we're kind of guessing right now, you do not want to guess. You want to know. You want to be confident that every step that you're taking, even if you're growing, is the step that you're operating within the boundaries of compliance. Because the sole purpose, in my opinion, well, there's a few purposes in business, to satisfy customers as safely as we can while creating profit and creating a culture around you of people that can also blossom. And when you do that, working alongside a consultant, it's pretty awesome just to see the different benefits. So if you ever have a question, you can always reach out. I always include my emails in these videos. So it's just down below. I do ask that if you have a question, reach out. If you have a concern, reach out. If you have a topic you'd like me to discuss, same thing, reach out. If you're ever on social media, we're all over the place. So Truck Focus Podcast, or our mother company is Pivotal Transportation Industry Solutions. So we have a large presence online, just trying to create positive momentum in our industry. But again, the biggest thing is if you have a question, you have a concern, please ask. You can go to our website, pvtlcompliance.com. You can contact us through there. That's totally fine. My phone number is 587-437-2345. You can always shoot me a text, give me a call. But at the end of the day, our goal is to help. It's to help create a pivotal impact. And we just really appreciate everything industry is doing. So that way we're all better off, we're all safer. And at the end of the day, we can hit those target goals while operating within the boundaries of compliance. So I just want to say thank you so much again for checking in. And just all of the support just means the world. If you're interested, I do ask you subscribe to our YouTube channel again. Just press that little red button, boom, and you're good to go. And again, any questions, any concerns, anything we could ever do to help, please let us know. Have a wonderful day. Thanks so much for checking in.